I said before, we cannot be ranked number 4 in corruption and still pretend that this is not a problem. This is a problem. And I can tell you this for sure. I will grant Uhuru and Ruto success if they have the commitment. But I know unless they are willing to tackle corruption head on, unless they are willing, for instance, to look at the TJRC report and see what is in it that could help them and ourselves overcome the problems that have hindered our development, they are not going to succeed. If you look at the countries that have done well.
May I just ask one question? I'm going back to this idea. The savage indictment of an entire system is based on 2 people. So you're saying that each and every leader, each and every cabinet secretary, permanent secretary, what you will, who is involved in this process is by their very nature tainted. Our whole leadership is bad.
Absolutely.
Because as you say, the limping herdsman will lead the flock to lack of pasture.
But
that's a terrible thing to say about people.
No, I have said it. I will say it again. And tomorrow, if I'm asked, I will repeat that you cannot have people indicted for crimes against humanity,
right,
clean enough to be president and vice president, or to be even secretaries to the cabinet.
Right.
Because once you have your president and your vice president...
subtlety, I'm going to the small print. I'm saying you are accusing the entire Kenyan populace of being a bunch of fools.
Yes, I am saying that we have
and only Koigi Wamwere has seen the light at the end of the tunnel.
There are very many people who will agree with my position. Many
and
more,
where are they?
Many more may not agree. But I know that this country, at least if you are judging the situation by the division of numbers between winners and losers, it is more or less equal. But I will tell you that there are many more people who will agree
you wouldn't have been
that
saying,
the best democratic practice
you wouldn't have been
is
saying,
that if John now, you are taken to court for corruption, before you clear your name, you should not be our president.
Point taken.
That is the right thing. John, what does it look to you?
Point taken entirely.
But listen,
I am saying, had this government for any reason been a chord coalition government, would it have been any more acceptable to you?
I would have said exactly the same. If it was Raila in The Hague and Kalonzo also in The Hague for the same charges, I would say they equally do not qualify to lead us until they clear their names.
Barring a court case, their leadership qualities are by their nature superior. Because you've accused me of stealing something. As I haven't stolen anything, but somebody else whom hasn't stolen, they're fine. So Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila Odinga as president and deputy president, you'd have been entirely happy for the first 100 days of their leadership. Is that your point?
No, but they are not there. Now, when you bring them it is entirely hypothetical.
Okay.
But let's say that it was them. It was instead of Uhuru, we had Raila, and instead of William Ruto, we had Kalonzo Musyoka.
Then we'd have been starting off
without being indicted. To be quite honest, they would be in a better position to lead this country because they will not be carrying the shame of that indictment at The Hague, not just for themselves, but also for the entire country. Remember, indictment at The Hague is a sort of Damocles, not just for the individuals, but for the entire country. Have you never felt ashamed or even embarrassed that you have some of your leaders paraded at The Hague? Doesn't it pain you? Don't you feel anything about it? And that would apply even if it were myself. But to be quite honest, I have gone through politics long enough to know that there are times when an individual should be prepared to sacrifice one's own interests for the greater interest of public good. Once you don't have leadership able to take that particular position, then the country is in trouble. Because that is when you have leaders who feel no shame and who do not. And we have been, there's a Swahili proverb that tells us that there are two jewels for every human being. One of them is reason and the other one is shame. Once you have a country of leaders that don't feel any shame, you are finished.
Right. Well, I was just going to come back to you because I think we read the same kind of literature on these subjects, that Kenyans were in fact spurred on to the fact that there was a sort of exterior machinations in our politics, and the fact that we are being told that, you know, actions have consequences actually spurred people to be more committed to voting the two in power. But I think you've said what you've said, and we've taken it on board. I would like to look at this word transformation,
yes.
the transformative nature of society. You're a politician of long standing. Negative ethnicity is a bad thing. Corruption is a bad thing. What do you say is a good thing? What would you have done any different? Because you're the politician. I'm the journalist.
To begin with, I know that there are some things that must be done. We need to develop this country. We need to develop our agriculture. We need to end unemployment. And I believe you do this by...
all of which are promises contained within the Jubilee Manifesto.
Absolutely.
Yes, huge.
Absolutely. We need to bring down unemployment.
And by the way, the Accord Coalition, the manifestos have all said these sunlit days are upon us. Better agriculture, better education, better health. The Jubilee Coalition has come and said mothers can go and have free maternity health care, and you're going to knock that as something which is bad.
No, let me say, if all the manifestos have said same things, I think the problem that all of us have is the problem of whether we shall have the money or not. And I said earlier that I think that we have enough money as a country to implement a lot of development programs. But I think what we lack is a clean enough leadership to make sure that we do not, to make sure that we plug all the loopholes of corruption, loss of money, theft, and all that. And I don't know whether you remember. I don't know whether you remember.
I go back to this idea. You were telling me how I would feel if, I would feel insulted if as a voter who woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and queued for 5 hours before I voted for whom I'm listening to you say to me that whatever vote I had was the wrong one, and I'm not going to use an insulting word, but I'm not intelligent enough to make the choices that we have.
Let me give you an example.
Over the years, you're saying that the people go to vote for the wrong people and they don't know it unless you tell them?
No, I don't have to tell them, because experience will tell them. Every time a voter makes a mistake in electing whoever they elect.
Which you're saying they have?
Yes, they have. And each time they do it, experience will soon catch up with them and tell them that they have made a mistake. Let me give you an example. Before elections, during the campaigns, I remember trying to urge teachers to help educate voters in the villages so that they would be able to make the right
informed
choices.
Decisions, yes.
Yes. And of course, most teachers were not listening because they were divided ethnically. Those who were Kikuyu, you could not persuade them not to vote for Jubilee. Right. They would only vote for Jubilee. Those who were in CORD would only vote for CORD. Those who were whatever else, they would vote for only people who belonged to that political group. Now, today, we have teachers on strike. They come to me and they say, what do you think of our strike? I said, I think it is good that we are fighting for your rights. But let me remind you that earlier, I asked you to vote for the right leadership that would give you probably what is your right without you having to go on strike.
One final,
yes. And look at something else.
They've made a mistake. I would like to ask you one final question, because you're saying people have made mistakes and they have consequences. I'm going to say the last question, very quickly answered. Hypothetical question. Under the leadership of President Koigi Wamwere, what would be the priority for Kenya as we go forward?
I think my priority would be, first of all, to give this country a vision, because I believe, and by vision, I don't mean a vision like Vision 2030. I am talking of a vision like independence from colonial rule, a vision that every person understood and which we were able to achieve. I'm talking about a vision like second liberation against one-party dictatorship. Again, a vision that was clear to everybody and one that could easily be achieved. Now, having come this far, I think our primary vision is a vision for economic liberation. We want, and we cannot get economic liberation outside the ideology, in my view, of social democracy. So if you ask me what I will give priority to, fight intellectual poverty because it's a big problem, fight corruption, fight capitalist greed, and negative ethnicity. I think if we are able to control those 4 problems, our country will be able to have a great leap forward, and probably become part of the first world.
Koigi Wamwere, politician, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.